Shouting Sub-Zero here, and welcome to the review show of the internet that tells you if a game is worth collecting, emulating, or just watching a YouTube walkthrough. And today, thanks to K-Dash, I'm going to be reviewing Tokyo Mirage Sessions for the Wii U. Now, I just want to make something clear, okay, K-Dash? After I review this game, I am going to see my son, right? Because just be mindful that this is not my time period and I don't belong here at all for any reason. Just want to go home and see my son, okay? So, do me a favor and just promise me that after I finish beating this game, that you're going to send me back to 2016. I don't want to miss the New Year's.
Ensure the completion of these reviews and I'll take you back myself.
Okay, so in 2013, a collaboration game was announced to be in the works for Nintendo's latest console, the Wii U. This dream project was set out to bring together two differing franchises, Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei. The announcement was coupled with a teaser trailer revealing that Atlus was leading development, while Nintendo in charge of publishing. No gameplay was shown, so many were left with their imagination to run wild with possibilities. I imagine with the rising popularity of Fire Emblem thanks to Awakening's massive success, a console entry of some sort sounded awesome. Let's not even forget that the last console Shin Megami Tensei game was 2008's Persona 4, which at the time still bared the title of SMT, something that seems to not be the case with Persona 5. So the idea of having this unlikely merger really spoke to fans of both series. Then it went dark, and the game didn't re-emerge until over 2 years later after its initial reveal. Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei turned into what we know today as Tokyo Mirage Sessions, a turn-based RPG where music is its central theme, sprinkled with nods to Fire Emblem and its core gameplay being more in line with Persona 3 and 4. Gamers who were once excited for the collaboration were now no longer interested. It's a shame because this is through and through a Shin Megami Tensei game. Heck, even the title Tokyo Mirage Sessions is a play on the title Shin Megami Tensei, just backwards and reworded. I feel the hype died due to Nintendo fans wanting a Fire Emblem-like game, not a SMT game with Fire Emblem on the side. I can't wait to hear the Fire Emblem theme in this game. Tokyo Mirage Sessions is a turn-based RPG which takes place primarily in Tokyo. You take control of Itsuki, a teenager who turns up to an audition in hopes of showing his friend Tsubasa support. Tsubasa is the primary heroine. She dreams of becoming a singing idol and, like her sister, pursue a musical career. During this event, spirit-like creatures known as Mirage attack the sites and consume everyone of their Performa. Performa is energy everyone possesses in some capacity. I have a hard time understanding what Performa is exactly, but from what I gathered, Performa is positive energy that reflects someone's personality or performance potential. By performance potential, I mean singing, dancing, acting, etc. Anything considered performing arts. If you have a gift or passion for it, then you have high Performa. Mirages feed off this energy and as a result leaves their victims lifeless? Anyway, during the attack, Itsuki and Tsubasa end up inside an idosphere, a dimension where mirages reside. These also act as dungeons. Upon entering the idosphere, we are introduced to the first set of Fire Emblem characters, Chrom from Awakening and Shadow Dragon's Kaede. They forge an alliance, marking them Mirage Masters. Chrom, along with every other Fire Emblem character in this game, regardless of morality, are mirages. The appearance of these mirages differ from the usual bunch you'll encounter in battle. Most have a unity with humans. Uniting the two allows the human to gain special abilities, which reflects that of set Mirage. Like Chrom, his starting class is the title Lord. Remarkably, Itsuki's appearance and fighting ability matches Chrom's, a noble skilled at swordplay. Kaede is a Pegasus Knight, granting all the units attributes to Tsubasa. Since this is a turn-based RPG, they don't play exactly like they do in Fire Emblem games, but I'll explain the battle system in detail later. After discovering their newfound abilities, Itsuki and Tsubasa join Fortana Entertainment. And that's how the game begins. I can get into more detail about the game's overall plot, but other than the strong opening, the rest of the story very much feels like a filler found in any typical anime series. There's around 8 chapters, but a huge chunk of them don't push the narrative much. Sure, there's an overarching story, but it's sprinkled lightly across each chapter. It's rather subjective, but it doesn't really get good into the end, and it's rather disappointing. In Tokyo Mirage Sessions, you get a diverse cast of characters, each with an iconic Fire Emblem unit at their side. We have Itsuki and Tsubasa, who I spoke about earlier. Then there's Toma, an action star who's been teamed up with Kane for some time already. Kiria, a very powerful singing idol with a cold shoulder, paired up with the one and only Tharja. Eleonora, aka the elegant Hollywood star, accompanied by the gentleman Virion. Mamori is a cute but lacking in popularity singer protected by the massive and deadly Drog. Talk about contrast at its finest. And finally we have Yashiro, who starts off being a massive a-hole, but deep down is quite the opposite. He has Navarre at his side. Other party members join your team but don't participate in battle. Instead, they help out with perks such as increasing money received in battle, waiving the cost of skills used in battle, and more. These characters are Tiki, Barry, and the smoking hot Maiko. Let me get into the actual gameplay now. Majority of the time is spent in battle. Luckily, combat is freaking awesome. I clocked in around 65 plus hours, and I'd say more than half of that time was eliminating mirages. Enemies roam around the Idolsphere, which I mentioned earlier act as dungeons. Once they are within proximity of Itsuki, they will give chase. You can choose to run into them, which will result in a fight, strike them causing the target to become staggered, or just simply avoid them altogether. When staggered, running into a mirage will grant you a preemptive attack or a free turn. Since Idolspheres are quite lengthy, get used to striking foes before battle for that free turn or to simply avoid them. Having enemies on screen is better than random encounters, but being constantly chased by enemies during puzzles could get distracting. The puzzles found in Idolspheres aren't difficult either. They require little to no thinking. I always felt like they were placed in a dungeon to only slow down your progress rather than challenge you. In battle, you're allowed control over 3 party members at once. Each participant has a class just like they do in Fire Emblem, so strengths and weaknesses apply to the entire cast. You can strike foes with weapons, do damage via spells, heal your party, buff stats, and even debuff enemies. One interesting part in battle is, unless you're Itsuki, you're allowed to swap characters in and out freely. So if you have Toma, which has an affinity to fire, and you want someone with affinity to ice, you can switch him out for Kiria. Swapping characters won't waste a turn, so it's a tactic worth taking advantage of. 3 characters are always going to be assigned as the main cast during a fight, but the side cast, which are the characters standing in the sidelines, also take part in battle in what would be considered a session. Sessions is this game's unique battle mechanic. These are basically attacks you string together after successfully damaging a mirage's weakness. For example, if Itsuki attacks an enemy who's weak against sword strikes, then it would follow up with anyone who learned the compatible session skill. Session skills are learned like any other skill and range from physical to magical attacks. The more compatible session skills you learn, the longer the combo. The damage caused in a session can really turn the tide of battle. You start off being limited to the main cast pulling off these chains, but as you level up your performance rank, another form of leveling outside of your character level, everyone can eventually join in on a session. All 7 characters. Oh, by the way, even enemies can do sessions too. You know how in most RPGs nowadays there's characters with supers or ultras? Hell, let's call them limit breaks of the game. In this game, they're called special performances. Here, each character calls forth their very own mirage to beat the crap out of enemies. Most special performances are area of effect based, meaning they attack everyone on screen, while others heal the entire party. What makes special performances essential during a fight is how they ignore enemy weaknesses. So if an enemy is weak to fire, but you're unleashing a fire-based special performance, it ignores the rules of affinity. Sure, it won't do as much damage as casting an ice spell, but the real purpose behind launching that performance is to start a session, which is what happens. There's so many ways to set up a session. Another way would be to complete side quests, as it unlocks skills called ad-libs. These ad-libs are musical performances that further enhance an attack. Many are based on either acting gigs our heroes took part in, or songs they sang in concerts. All of them are powerful. Not only do they damage everyone on stage, but they also inflict more than double or triple the pain of the original attack. My personal favorites come from Tsubasa and Kiria. Fly and the Labyrinth have great songs. Again, they are followed by a session. The final method of starting a session is within a session: dual arts. During ongoing sessions, you will occasionally get a prompt that executes a dual art. These arts are collaborations between two of the party members. You unlock dual arts similarly to ad-libs by completing side quests or talking to Michael when getting past certain segments of the story. By the end of the game, you could unlock all the dual arts. These have really catchy tunes, and not only do they inflict damage to all enemies on screen, some even heal all party members and cure them of all negative ailments. Again, these are done during a session, so after successfully activating the dual art, a session follows suit. It's even possible to unleash another dual art. I want to make clear that the longer the session, the longer the wait. Sessions are awesome, but sometimes they seem to drag on far too long. You can't skip the animation, nor can you speed up the animation. You have to sit through the long barrage of attacks. What's odd is you can skip the special performances, ad-libs, and dual art animation entirely, but the sessions you can't. I was hoping a speed up option was available for sessions, like when pressing X for auto attack. Auto battle tells everyone to simply attack and seems to move at a faster pace than manually selecting attack. The animation, of course. If that can be sped up, why can't sessions? Did I mention how flashy the battle screen can be? There's TVs in the background which reflect the character's current condition. It changes according to their health and even status ailments. If they are knocked down, you would see it mirrored on the screen. Shout out to the glow stick wielding mirages. The battle screen is flashy, but can also be dull to look at after a while. The stage changes slightly depending on which idosphere you're in, but mostly all look the same. The idospheres, on the other hand, are as varied as I love them to be in an RPG. Each have a unique theme and make dungeon crawling worthwhile. Backstages, ruins, and television networks are some examples of what you'll crawl through. With the amount of dungeons found here, expect a lot of fighting. And if you don't think the battle mechanics are for you, I believe this game isn't for you. Outside of combat, the game plays a lot like a visual novel. The side quests especially. These missions are all about getting to know the cast, diving deep into a character's personality. They do a great job at making you feel Like these are real artists struggling to either make it or just trying to fit into society. Of course, some side quests are more interesting than others. Some of these story bits felt pointless. During these events, I simply skipped the dialogue because they just went on and on with no real purpose other than padding. You may get a kick of what I found pointless. I'm looking at you, Mamori. Moving around Tokyo is pretty cool. It gave me a vibe similar to that of SMT4 and The World Ends With You, just not as expansive. It's definitely stylish because the art direction here highlights the people participating in the events rather than detailing everyone on screen. Walking the streets of Shibuya will be crowded as it should, but all the NPCs look like Skittles people. It gets a little odd entering a studio and seeing everyone but the important characters look like candy. Even during animated cutscenes, the rainbow power is present. Pretty sure it was an artistic approach more by Atlas than anything else. While roaming the streets, you will see a multitude of stores. Not all storefronts can be entered, but the one you will be visiting often has Anna as a cashier. With the amount of money thrown at you in battle, purchasing items to its maximum capacity was easy even early on. In fact, I ended up broke not due to Anna's shop, but rather by buying the vast selection of outfits for the cast. There's a lot of great stuff you can buy. Characters like Mamori have such terrible default attire that it's a godsend you can freely rotate outfits. Weapons are not bought visiting a store. Weapons are forged by Tiki. The best way to describe how weapons are created is comparing to Persona's Velvet Room. Instead of fusing personas, you're fusing mirages, and Performa create new weapons. These are called carnages. The more enemies you defeat, the more Performa you accumulate after a fight, which allow the creation of stronger weaponry. It's pretty much streamlined. It doesn't get a little complex until you're allowed to remaster an older carnage. This system allows all weapons to level up a second, third, or even fourth time, making it have higher stats and stacking skills to increase its power. Relearning spells, physical strikes, or passive abilities decrease EP cost and overall efficiency. Customization potential for each character seems limitless when you take that into account. I'm not gonna go over the Radiant Unity system, which goes as far as unlocking additional skill slots and much more. It's not necessary to abuse these systems to defeat the final boss, but it helps. If you're watching this review up to this point, you're more than likely a hardcore RPG or anime fan, so just know there's no English dub. At first I was personally bummed out, but after a while it grew on me. Now I can't imagine playing it with English voiceovers. The songs would probably sound like crap too. It's worth noting there are some minor issues with the translation. Sometimes in combat, characters speak and you have no clue what's being said. There's no text to translate what they're saying at all. I honestly don't know if I'm missing out on tips mirages are giving in battle, or if they're just trash talking. Either way, it doesn't ruin the experience. Now when it comes to stuff I disliked, what stands out to me is how little this feels like a Fire Emblem game. I guess since the characters from past games are present here, it should feel more like one, but the setting, music, and battle system throws me off. I get reminded mostly when I level up, which happens often. That iconic jingle does a good job waving in your face, "This is Fire Emblem!" For a collaboration, it's definitely leaning a little too much towards one side, rather than taking the best of both worlds, thus making it into something unique. The music just doesn't do it for me. Sure, the performances were great, but the tracks played during dungeons or fights weren't memorable. As I read this review, I can't remember one track. Well, there you have it, guys. My review or rant on Tokyo Mirage Sessions for the Wii U. Now it's time to get into my rating system. You know, the rating system that I use when I play these retro games. Based on 3 questions I asked myself. Is the game worth collecting, emulating, or just watching a YouTube walkthrough? Tokyo Mirage Sessions is a really good game. As I mentioned in many of my reviews, gameplay comes first. So it's no surprise with how much flexibility given in combat and the mass customization over the cast of characters that I love the battle system to death. I would consider it the best combat in a turn-based RPG I've played in a while. The story, on the other hand, isn't anywhere near the level it should be. Considering this is a Fire Emblem and SMT collaboration, I sometimes forgot this had anything to do with Fire Emblem. If you're gonna play, I would say play for the combat, dungeon crawling, and characters. The core story just isn't there. For those looking for a story, then steer clear. Thank you. Now can I see my son?
One more before we go. Into the regalia, please.
No. No, this took me nearly 70 hours to beat! I can't play that game!